Hey everyone! And someone has this audio on in the background. I can hear it.
I know. I just caught it and I just turned it off.
Okay. Yeah, as you can see, Ryan likes watching our live stream too. And someone has this audio on in the background.
Well, I got to have the chat up, and the only way to have the chat up for me is to actually be on there.
Watching our live stream too. Hold on.
I gotta have the chat up. So, as you can see, we've got a different face with us this week. So, Chris, where are you at, Chris?
I still hear audio in the background.
We've got a different face with us this week. Okay, hold on. Let me just kind of shut everything down. There we go.
All right. All right. So I was frantically trying to figure out if it was me or not.
Me too. I pulled my fader down there for a second.
No, it was me. For some reason, it was coming through my soundboard, not through my normal audio channel. I don't know why.
Totally professional YouTubers here.
Yeah.
It's me. I bring in the chaos there.
All right. So this week, everyone, we got special guest Arge. Him and his son run Rollin Thunder. They do a podcast, and they also just have a website also for reference tools for articles and everything like that. And I've been trying to delve into it as much as I can because I wanted to not sound stupid when I'm talking to you. Because I feel as though you're very thoughtful in your questioning of everyone, so I try to be as thoughtful as I could. It's probably not going to come off that way on me, but and
we're a little bit more loose cannon over here than you guys are there at Rollin Thunder.
And this week we're going to be talking to Arge, and we also have a little bit of our spring 2-team takedown started. A few matches have already been completed. Ryan, I know we started accidentally a little bit early, to your chagrin.
Yeah, I was not very happy about that, but you know, hey, I have temporarily lost my access from home to the crgr.rocks website, so Chris had to make the post on there and forgot to schedule it, so it went live as soon as he posted it, and I was literally just about to reshuffle the seeds afterwards, and I looked over at Discord and saw people were like, "Oh, we're paired up against each other." I'm like, I probably shouldn't reshuffle that then.
I forget that people actually go to our website. I'm like, no one's going to see this until we announce it. And I'm like, oh shit, people actually saw it. What? Okay, I guess people go to our website.
So yeah, it looks like we've already got half the matches done for round 1 already. So kudos on those guys getting those done pretty quick. It's actually, I mean, we're half and half. We've got 2 of the ones that have completed went full 3 rounds, and the other 2 were straight, 2-0 victories. So I haven't looked at the teams to see exactly how it's shuffled out, but I do know it appears to be a Becky field. Lots and lots of Beckys out there. So
at least on one team. That's kind of the beautiful thing of, well, I should say,
well, with Becky
2
Lynch,
Beckys.
There's the 2 of them with the global, so it's possible they could have 2, both teams with it. So.
Most likely have 2.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to do our full team analysis. We'll have that for next week. So
yeah, and we're also going to be playing Trivial Pursuit this weekend. It's Lord of the Rings Trivial Pursuit. We set it up this weekend, so be sure to check that out on our Twitch. And me and Robert are going to be doing a draft on Magic, so be sure to check that out. We're probably going to do that Thursday or Friday. Yeah. We'll announce that, but yeah.
Yeah, I have to skip on the Lord of the Rings trivia. It's you're doing that the day of my daughter's birthday, so I'm picking my family versus you guys. Sorry.
I guess we'll allow it. I don't know. It's pretty shady. So, getting into things. Arge, how's it going? How was your week?
It's all bleeding together.
It's a new week. What?
Week, month, what year is it? It's I fully understand the old maxim, put work on a busy man's desk now, because I'm just slogging along. I feel like I've started about maybe 100 projects, and I'm about, maybe 8%.
105 in?
Yeah, on all of them at once. My family wants to kill me. I decided to do a Mocha, which is like turning my cable network into
Yep.
a backbone. And I decided to do that, and I messed up one thing, and the rest of the family is like ready to kill me because the Wi-Fi went down. But I really wanted to do this because it'd be so much better. And I keep talking like it's gonna be so much better. Honestly, guys, once this works,
Just
you're gonna love
deal
me.
with me for just 5 more days.
I'm like up all night up on the roof, like stringing cable and trying. Finally, it's up and running. So I've been doing like stuff like that. My family wants to kill me because I'm going to make everything better. But
You'll
meanwhile, we're in a state of distress at the moment.
you'll see, guys. It's gonna streamline everything. So trust me.
You gotta trust me. It's not good enough yet. You just don't know. You don't know. It's terrible.
Oh man.
But otherwise, I mean, we're all healthy. We're here. Going out of our minds a little bit, but everyone's still getting along. It's funny, you would think when you have this kind of amount of time that you get, you can do all the stuff that you've always wanted to do. I'm always amazed, like, like when I go on vacation, how busy I feel, and it's sort of the same thing. Right now, I feel like I need to knock some stuff off just to get some stuff done. Totally overwhelmed.
It's it's usually I have the vacation after the vacation before I go back to work. Is
Right.
the way it works,
Me
Anyway, how
personally,
are you
things
guys?
fine. Things haven't really changed for me. I'm still just working at home, doing things. Yeah, I feel like I've watched all of the internet now, and there's like nothing to watch. It's a very awkward
Yeah.
thing.
I've gotten pulled into tool restoration videos on YouTube. Those are pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on my crimping tools and my Cat 6 or RG6 spinning tools and all kinds of things.
Yeah, those days are long behind me. I used to do that for a living. I never want to go back. So
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Oh man. So I guess we'll get on with the questions. I guess.
yeah, so I guess the reason we have Arge with us, we talked about the Rolling Thunder podcast. We what we haven't mentioned, of course, if my memory does serve here, Arge, you and your son are the first father son, championship, first champion and runner up in Dice Master history here.
Proud of you, Ryan.
Yeah, I mumbled through that one. It took me a second. And unfortunately, when that happened, I was traveling, and the only access I had to see anything that was going on was my cell phone, and my provider cut off all my access. So I wasn't able to see anything of what happened for the any of that. So little history lesson for us. Why don't you talk us through that whole event there?
Yeah, well, that was a great event. We had Origins that year was, of course, in Ohio, and that's where the national championship was. And Luke and I had gone there, and we both finished top 8 there. And so we thought, hey, let's do. I think it was this the first year? I think it was the first year they had split the world championship off of Origins and gave it its own thing. And that year they were going to do it at PAX in Philadelphia. I guess just as close to New Jersey and close to WizKids. So we went out. That was early December 2018, and it was really fun. We went to Philadelphia. They had all kinds of Christmas season stuff going on, and the convention center's huge. Part of the problem was there was no way. There's no Wi-Fi down there. It was down in this gigantic basement. So even if people wanted to stream, which I believe Jimmy did, they just couldn't do it. So that's
Right.
kind of we were playing by ourselves, but we had a great tournament, and they did a lot of things. They had a golden tournament. They had a 10 by 10. Like not even global escalation. It was just full on golden, which was
Mhm.
great. And yeah, we just got it, and there wasn't a ton of people, but everybody who was there was you know top notch. And so
Yeah.
you didn't have sometimes in these tournaments you can get like a couple of rounds to kind of get your feet under you, and you know what I mean, kind of figure out like this thing. You came in and it was pedal to metal. Some really good players. I'm not going to say them all just because I'll forget somebody, but everybody you would recognize who was on that list.
Mhm.
And as the tournament went down, Lucan and I just the bracket fell in just such a way that we kind of climbed up the bracket, and the next thing you know, we realized we were going to be playing each other in the final, which was awesome. I really so proud of him. He just is such a great player. There's a real natural instinct
Yeah,
for the
I,
game.
I've gotten to play against him a couple of times in the past. He is a fantastic player. So
He's really fun, and he's just if he can stick with it, because he's he's getting ready to go to college. He's doing got a lot. He's in that junior year of high school, so he's got a billion things going on at once. But the future is bright with him in that game. It's funny because I just look at my mental acuity and my ability at this point and compare it to his, and he's just picks up things much faster than me. And
Mhm.
it's just like it's definitely I'm on that downside of the mountain, but it's fun to play with him. Anyway, so we got together and played in the final, and it was awesome. It was really really fun. It was usually those kind of events when you end up at the top table or final rounds or even in top eight and stuff, it's usually super stressful. And with the two of us, it was just yeah, it was great. It was like
well, I'm
I
sure you
can't lose
guys
and I can't win, and
play against each other. Yeah, I'm sure you guys played against each other hundreds of times, sitting at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
yeah.
How different was or how different are your home games compared
Yeah.
to when you're sitting there when it was the finals?
Are there
I'm
casual
sure you've been asked
nights?
the opposite question.
Yeah.
How are the finals different than the home game? I want to know how the home games are different from those competitive games.
In a weird way, sometimes we found the final to be really fun. It was totally relaxing. It was like, here we are, we both win, we both lose, whatever. We are.
The prize is coming home with us no
The
matter
prize is
what.
prize is coming home no matter what. And it was just we were already enjoying the moment, if that makes any sense,
Oh, yeah.
And at home, sometimes it's just fun, but usually we're both pretty competitive. So like even when we sit down to like test something and we both will want to win, so it can sometimes still get heated. Like, this is the stupid team I brewed. I wanted to just try. I just want to test the engine. Would you let me test the engine and not kill me in turn three? Let me test the damn engine.
Oh my god.
you know? And so also, and both of us will both do a little bit of the victory dance just to give it to the other guy a little bit every once in a while. Like, we have this saying in the family where it's like, I'm just playing my little heart out. I'm just playing my little heart out. Don't go away, man. Don't go away, man.
It's just a game. It's just a
It's
game.
just a game. It's just a game. Yeah, no.
Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
We usually try to keep it light, but sometimes our competitive juices get better. It usually doesn't last more than 15, 20 minutes. The problem is like when somebody's really built a team and they've been trying to make it work and they can't get it working, and certain like the salt level will start to rise at a certain point. Just because you're like you can only take so much punishment. You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man. Yeah,
Well,
that's kind of the same thing as when we kind of play against each other either in Magic or Dice Masters. Someone's gonna get salty, especially if they're brewing a team, and then you're sitting there like, "Oh, I'm just playing my Super Yanti team, my poor little Yanti team. What's your problem?"
or my vicious struggle team
Oh,
that takes you out.
you monster. Oh man.
So here's a question for you that I've only ever been to as far as a competitive level event that traveled to was Worlds this last year at Memphis.
mhm,
Otherwise I've only been to local level events.
right.
As you just said, you were at Origins, you were at the PAX East event and whatnot. You know, what was your impression of how things went at Worlds at Memphis compared to these other events? you know
Uh, I really thought they did a really nice job at Memphis. I mean, all you guys. I think you guys made the difference in a lot of things in terms of just being able to broadcast things and promote the game. I think that's essential to have that out there. I really wish that had existed at PAX. PAX was a great experience. In terms of actually playing, they're very similar. the actual playing aspect of things. There was great players and good events and nice prizing. PAX actually had probably better prizing than they had at Memphis. And
Yu-Gi-Oh! Factory sets don't count as good pricing.
one, okay, one, fair enough.
To be fair, they probably don't have one person winning all the events, which is it's really on everyone else for that, honestly.
Yeah, and maybe I'm being unfair in the sense that they did have good things like the animated X-Men animated
Yeah.
stuff and the super rare or the foil Jubilee was really cool. So
Mm-hmm.
that stuff was great. You know, every one of these has its own particular flavor, and part of it is the location. Like Columbus is a great town. Luke and I have got to know Columbus a lot over the period of time, and each era has its particular mold. You have that dark side era, you had the Bard era, you had the vicious struggle era, you had Philadelphia was its own thing because of the winter that was going on. You walked outside and it was Christmas and it was kind of awesome. So there were all of these things kind of are mixed in my mind, but I think every single one of them has their own kind of special. I think Memphis was really cool. uh it was nice to just be in with the Dice Masters and the Whiz Kids crew. Though there's something nice to be at a con too. I don't know. It's hard to compare. It's a little bit of apples and oranges.
Yeah, I mean, my experience was very different. As you mentioned, I was more dealing with the broadcast side of it. I didn't get to, mingle with a lot of people or talk. So I was just very interested in, someone outside the game room's experience, and especially someone who's been to other events and whatnot. So, you know,
I think that kind of takes us into our next section a little bit. Uh, so playing in tournaments, participating in as many as you've played in competitively, and just kind of just being a viewer of it in a way, has it given you more of an insight of how to put on tournaments, or is it just doing it that's really just been more beneficial?
Well, in terms of putting on tournaments, that was something that when we came away from, well, actually, as we were going into the Worlds at 2018 and coming out of it, certainly, um, having finished both of us at the top table, we thought, well, this might be a good opportunity to help the game a little bit. At the time, we were bemoaning the fact that seemed like WizKids was, and then maybe it's at least at the time they'd stepped away from WKOs, which is something we really enjoyed playing. Um, and we were missing that. And so the other thing we were missing is we had a lot of people we were watching kind of with the introduction of non-blind product. I think a lot of the local scenes were dying across. We just seen it. We just even look out and see a lot of stores were dropping the product as they couldn't make any money off of it on a
Mm.
weekly basis. So we decided, hey, maybe we could do. Originally, the idea was, hey, maybe we'll do like and maybe this is still an idea for somebody, like a vets tournament where we bring out all the old vets and they can play whatever cards they want. And we'll just take these prizes we cleaned up at Worlds. So we'll just take all these factory sets and we'll give them away to people to come back. And then I kind of floated that idea, and a lot of the vets were like, we're retired and we're done. So we're not coming back no matter what. So I thought, well, if we can't have that, maybe we can kind of do something that will be fun to get the local scenes going. That'll give a little bit of a WKO like feel if people want to have that. I'm a big believer in that the game should be fun, and I like playing in person. Nothing against the online experience, but I'm kind of zoomed out at this moment, and the reason like I really like to be in play with people in person, have fun, talk, chat, throw things around, the
Mhm.
physical aspect of it. Um, it's funny as like I'm a film editor by trade, and I still miss the days of actually cutting film and taping it and running it through the things. So that's just me. I'm a terrible boy. I was always a terrible boyfriend when in terms of calling people. I didn't like to talk on the phone. I like to talk to people in person. Ironically, now I run a podcast, but anyway, the point was, so I thought, well, let's try this. Maybe we can combine the two things and have a tournament or to help get the local scenes going, help keep them alive I was literally thinking, how can we keep these scenes alive until WizKids realizes that, oops, this non-blind, we need some blind product in the pipe stream to keep the local scenes alive. My idea was like to have a local scene alive so that, when WizKids kind of woke up and realized, hey, we need to have some blind product to keep the stores alive, that the stores would still be there when that happened. That was the original genesis of the idea, and it sort of turned out well. And then the idea was like, if the local scenes could each the top two finishers from the local scenes could then compete for a final online, and then probably try to have one scene kind of feed the other.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough. We ran one of the local events last year at Docs Comics and Games, and I was fortunate enough to make it into the top two. It was
You weren't even planning on being in it.
I wasn't actually planning on being in the event. We just had an odd number, so I went ahead and joined the event. And got very lucky in my semifinals match against Joe to make it into the finals against Kevin. Kevin was his first time at an event, and he won the whole thing. So
That's awesome.
He Kevin and I went into the one big weekend online, which, if I remember correctly, is one of the last times I've actually played in any major capacity at all, whether online or in person.
Yeah, you were running that Riddler team, that Yellow Lantern.
Yeah, I was
That
running
was
that
awesome.
Riddler team, and I vividly remember my match against Lucan, and I think Lucan was cursing me as much as he could with the microphone, trying to mute that microphone in between curses. So
That's a
it was
frustrating
that I
thing
will
to
say
say.
that was one of the highlights of my day. That day was knowing I went toe to toe with a world class player and held my own, and you know but no, from the player point of view, there, as you've mentioned, there was a lot of push for the local scenes, which was kind of counter to what we were seeing everywhere else in the community, which was, yeah, our local scene's dead, so let's go online and play.
Yeah.
Right.
What
And I
type of pushback did you get from a lot of any of these communities or whatnot? Of, yeah, I really want to join this, but there's literally no one to play against, to have a tournament here in this area. You know,
we got some of that. There's some of that that's happened. And again, it's if my feeling is like, if you love the game and you want to see the game flourish, then you have to provide a financial way for the company to make some money doing it. They have to make some money. And
yep,
like even they said in their recent thing, they're talking about like the local scenes, the friendly local game stores being the backbone of the community. So having a place to play and make money in the local game store, it all has to exist. Now that doesn't mean there shouldn't be, and maybe after this time, there's a way to have a virtual station at your local game store when we play these games as well. I could foresee that, which I think would be really cool.
Mhm.
But one of the things was, some people did have areas where they couldn't quite. Hey, there's my wife. Some people did have areas like in Columbus, ironically, where they like I know Michael went out and really tried to shop around and get people to jump back in, and Columbus just wasn't having it, which is a strange irony, given that's where they host Origins, every year, and there were a lot of Dice Masters players there for a long time. Um, but in other places, like there's a guy out in the Inland Empire who just wanted to play. And so he figured out a way to do it that made sense. He just went and talked to the local communities and said, hey, if you have an extra feed, give it to me or I'll buy it from you.
Mhm.
And then he approached the store. So he made it very easy for the store. He didn't say like the store has to run, it has to do any work. He said, I'll do the work. I'll even let you have a charge of buy-in. I'll bring the product. Just give us some table space. And
right,
sure enough, it worked. And then the next thing you know, the owner of the store was like, "Hey, this is a good game. I like it." Then she started playing, and a scene grew up out of that. So it really takes one person to kind of take the bull by the horns and find one place. And usually, if you can do that and you can show the store that they're going to make some money, and you can get two or three people to come on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, maybe weekly's too much. Sometimes maybe just start it once a month or bi-weekly or something. But once we had people rolling that way, I found people liked getting together and knowing people and having friendships develop, and just getting a chance to talk and come out once or twice a week, once or twice a month, and roll some dice. So it was a mixed bag. Some people were ready, and some scenes came back from the grave that way too. There were scenes where it had been dead that were like, hey, this is great. Gives us an excuse to get our crew back together and roll again. So, which was what we were hoping to do, really. So,
I think in our local scene that there were so many stores that did Dice Masters at the very beginning that it just kind of
Oh,
the community ate
saturated the
itself.
market.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, for a while there in the early days of Dice Masters, you literally any night of the week there was a store that had an event going.
Mhm.
You could just depending on if you were willing to drive there or not.
Right.
And now we're down to the point, barring social distancing and the situation there, there's one store left,
Right.
that's running it,
Yeah, if you can
but
find one, we've got a couple in LA, but again, it just takes one or two people who really want to be the volunteers and drive the thing. And if you have those people, make sure you reach out to them and say thank you. And, give them a beer or something because they're really
you,
holding it
you
all
say
out
give
for
a
me.
beer to the two people who aren't drinkers, so
Yeah.
Make it a cake, whatever it is.
I like cake.
There you go. So, but yeah, it takes a few folks just to get it going. But um, for the most part, I think once you have a scene up and set up, it's for me, it's just been really rewarding. I've made some of my best friends in this kind of stage of my life. I would now say, like, yeah, if I keel over from COVID tomorrow, I know that most of the people who will be virtually checking in on my funeral will be those Dice Masters players who I play with. So, I would encourage you if you've got people. I know I hear like, yeah, I lost my scene, blah blah, but and fair enough. I'm sorry, that's terrible. But I encourage you to try to start up again. You probably can if you can find one of those shops, those 8 shops that dropped out. One of them probably wasn't burnt too badly by whiz kids who'd be willing to try to make a buck at this point. Try it and
Yeah.
maybe ask them around you. Maybe you know.
I know one of the stores is completely out of gaming or anything. That's the
yeah,
one that I used to go to with Rob, and we played there. Doc's
Right.
Comics, the one that the man
the
that
only
runs
one
it,
that's currently left.
the man that runs it is on this channel right now, Ryan. It's held on a Thursday, and there's no way I could make it to their Dallas traffic
Yeah,
and play. So that's,
Yeah.
but anyone
and
that
then
can play on Thursday should play on Thursday.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, the one other store that there by Chris, just around the corner from his house, has a fantastic relationship with WizKids. They, to my understanding, they're the nation's largest distributor of HeroClix.
Wow.
And they've never been able to make Dice Masters work there.
Hmm.
They've tried and tried and tried and never been able to make it work.
Well, maybe if you can
So
find one person who wants to really run it and do it, and I don't know,
I've tried
it's worth giving it a
it.
shot. Yeah,
The
and
thing is,
yeah,
it takes two to tango, so you got to have
yeah,
somebody else to go up,
yeah,
right?
it's so far. Like this location is so far from everyone in the DFW area, and it takes an hour to get anywhere in the DFW, even if you're like right next to somewhere. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
just as bad in LA. In fact, it's probably worse in LA. But yeah, so it's just a bad spot for Dice Masters. Most of the Dice Masters people are in North Dallas area, and this is like
Mhm.
North Fort Worth. So it sounds like not
Yeah.
that much, but it is.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that we are hoping with this particular, we are going to do with this one big weekend, we are hoping, given the fact that blind product and draftable product was coming back, we were hoping that this was going to ever so seamlessly coincide with the introduction of these draft packs and help kind of breathe some life into these, because we here in the States at any rate, we're talking to True Mr. Six about this, is that that's what people came out for. They like to come out and draft,
Hmm.
for the most part. People showed up, they did their collection, they found new cards, even if they lost and they got a super rare, they felt good. It leveled the playing field, so you weren't like just like, oh, I'm gonna be up against that guy who stomps everybody every single time.
Yeah.
So And that, well, I think, killed some scenes too. So, you know, as we go for, I'm trying to think, as we think of this as local scene version 2, it'd be great to have some kind of like, here's how you do it, here's how you keep it fresh, here's how you keep it healthy, here's how we do it as a community. Because, like, it's no good for the one guy, like you're talking, you show up and you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs and you're doing that week after week. That feels bad, right? So
Yeah,
when I hear people say, "Oh, we lost our community," well, then show up. You got to show up fairly consistently. Yeah, you miss a week here and there, but if you want it to live, show up and help that person make it through.
absolutely. Um, I
Well, and you just touched a little bit on the plans for one big weekend this year. We've talked a lot about the history kind of leading up to where you're at now, and you and I have talked quite a bit in the background for what I know quite extensively what the plans were, but COVID happened and
Right.
plans had to change. So, how are you now adapting the one big weekend to, as my wife likes to call it, the situation? Um,
Right. Well, it's funny, everyone trying when we were organizing this tournament, and I heard about this Chinese, virus breaking out in Wuhan, and that was like in December. I literally looked to Louis to Lucan and said, "I'll bet you that's gonna mess up everything." you know, and so it didn't really take that much of a crystal ball to see that there was going to be problems, not just from the distribution point. I didn't anticipate a problem necessarily with having to push the tournaments, but I certainly anticipated a problem about like just distribution and getting the product in time and all that kind of stuff. Because it wasn't long to hear before we started hearing that all these factories were closed and nothing was coming out, etc. So anyway, the idea was, well, I didn't want to just leave people high and dry. Like, we'd put in a lot of legwork, we had a lot of things, and I thought, well, why don't we do a couple of virtual tournaments? And we'll just plug them into the stream. We'll kick everything down this line. Like, all the local tournaments will happen later. The online final will happen later in the year when we finally come out from underneath this. But here now, we already had something set up for May 16th, which was going to be the online final. But we'll just make that a virtual tournament, like a virtual local tournament. So there'll be a European version of that, which True Mr. Six is going to be running. And there's going to be a North American version, just because the time zones get so crazy. It was easier
right.
to set things up so that, we can not have to get up in the middle of the night to play. But
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, so right now we're looking at a good healthy tournament. I think we'll probably have, maybe 12, 13, 14 people here in North America, maybe 8 to 12 people in Europe, and we'll have two tournaments on May 16th. And thanks to you guys for being the backbone, the virtual backbone of the thing.
Yeah, we definitely are more than willing to lend our expertise in the online tournaments, helping with that. So with that, you're leveraging our challenge community. So anyone who's wanting more information about it, definitely check out the Rolling Thunder website
Yep.
or our challenge community. Uh, you can get definitely more information about the event there. Um, I was going somewhere with this, and I
Well,
lost my track mid thought there.
well, we put out a questionnaire on the Dice Masters Unlimited Facebook group. Uh, and we were asking for some feedback and things. Again, I wanted to keep this. My original thought when I had this was like, oh, we'll do it as like 2020 modern. Here comes the worst thing, and one of the things I'm experiencing is that a lot of people are kind of stressed out and just have had their fill of life. This COVID thing. We're all stressed out, so maybe the spirit of the one big weekends locals was that the local tournaments could choose whatever format they wanted to play, whatever their players wanted to play, they could play. And I wanted to extend that to the virtual tournament as well. So if you have a strong feeling about what you'd like to play and you'd like to play in the tournament, you can go over to that questionnaire on the Dice Masters Unlimited Facebook group and fill out answer the questions. Because I'm trying to tailor the event to please people as much as possible. Right now, it's looking like we're going to do something mid-level, but there's still time to get your answers in. I'm going to probably close the questionnaire in the next couple days, and we'll pick a format and roll with it. But I'll let that should be coming out by this weekend.
And if it's not the format that you wanted, it we're trying to get everything done for what the majority of people want, and Arge is doing everything he can to make sure it's fun and enjoyable for everyone as much as he can. So
Yeah, I think it'll probably be in the middle there somewhere. Again, that's more of a onus on us. We've got to come up with some creative building assignments and brand bands, etc. But we'll make it work somehow if that's the way it turns out.
absolutely.
And again, that's we're looking at the May 16th.
Yep.
Is for those tournaments. So and it's going to be a 1 day tournament. It's not like our 2-team takedown where it's over a period of time, to do your matches.
Takes an eon to play.
Right. It's going to be everyone, is sitting down at the same time, as close to a physical event as we can make it online.
Exactly.
So I know we did that last year. We had a couple of issues, and specifically, I took a lot of those, and that's how we've kind of tried to tailor to correct those issues with the way we do our monthly one shot, and we've had a lot of good success with those. And so we're kind of lending you that formula for the one big weekend events there. So hopefully it works out well for you. So
Absolutely, step by step, and I'm a big believer in, like I said, with RG6 problems. You make mistakes and you learn and you you make it better.
yeah,
Sooner or later, you got Wi-Fi. Hey, I'll look at that.
there you go.
You fail until you get it right. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Sooner or later, there's nowhere else to fail but up.
Yep. So yeah. So and again, thank you for providing that backbone, Ryan. It's I think we're pretty well set up. And the good news is it looks like everybody has well, some of they have Chrome or have Firefox. They're ready to go as far as that goes. Some of the other infrastructure, at least in North America, we've got about 25% of the people who haven't been on challenge, but I think they're open to it. So I'm going to be reaching out to them and trying to get them hooked up. It looks like a bunch of people have already, are at least over 75% of the people are already on the Discord server. So we'll try to get the rest of them on too. And, maybe this can help,
Well, and,
help set up
to
the CR game room.
address that real fast, the challenge account is not 100% required. The membership to our Discord server is not 100% required to make the event work. I know a lot of people have an issue with the amount of ads that challenge puts up there. I personally absolutely despise ads. That's part of the reason we did create the community we created, so that you can not have the ads. So, want to make sure that's aware to people. As long as you're just going through our community on challenge, you won't be seeing the ads through that. But the benefit to it is they have a feature called the stations, which allows for the easy use of getting into the room paired against your opponent. It is not required to have an account for that. You just have to access the site and access the event and see that. The additional is in what it's supposed to be is on the, if you're a member of our Discord server as well, there's actually a bot that's connected to it that will actually send you a private message with that information as soon as the match is there. So it alleviates you having to even be on the Discord site for it, is the theory. But again, the issue there is you have to link your challenge account to your Discord account, which on your form you pointed to the instructions on that. So hopefully more people will do that, and go there. But it's not a 100% requirement to have that.
Right.
It just definitely makes it easier to run.
And could you talk a little bit about? I know some people were concerned, have questions or just they're not familiar with Jitsi, and
Okay.
because you guys are using Jitsi, and just to talk and alleviate any kind of concerns about that, because I know
Yeah,
people have had
so
like questions about that. They had some.
the other new technology we've brought to the game here. Um, so for the longest time, Dice Masters Online has used Google Hangouts. I know some people we flirted with the idea of Skype, and it just
Horrible.
died the miserable death that it
Right.
needed to die. And Hangouts just kind of worked. Um, there's nothing overly wrong with Hangouts. It's just not the best.
Right.
Um,
Video
so
quality and
I've
everything else about that is very limited, and the bandwidth
yeah,
is limited.
yeah, there's limited on the video quality. It requires you to have a Google account. There's several things that I just have always had an issue with on it. And I've been looking at several solutions for a very long time, trying to come up with a good solution. And with everything that happened with, all the people starting to work from home and all the, slew of people jumping on video conferencing, it became very big news. And so I was able to get a lot more feedback from a lot more people on it. And one of the things that I had been looking at for a while and started getting a lot more traction with was, as you mentioned, Jitsi, which is a completely open source video teleconferencing service. Um, so, for those that don't know what open source is, the source code for it is available for anyone to review, anyone to look at, and is free for anyone to use. So, we use a lot of their public servers for stuff, but we also have our own private server that we've stood up for when we do our own match recordings. The only benefit that that private server has over the public server is we get to remove the watermark.
Mhm.
There's really no other made any difference between the two. Um, and so the main benefits that Jitsi has for us is there's no need for a user account. You click on the link, boom, you're in.
As long as you got a
Um,
browser, you're good, right?
as long as you have a browser, if you are on an iOS device, specifically mobile iOS device, Safari, or actually the iOS limits what applications can access your microphone and camera. So you have to download an app for iOS devices to function properly. I think it's a 4 meg app. It is extremely small, very fast to install. It's called Jitsi, Jitsi.
And that's a thing with iPhone or iOS period that they kind of have
Yeah,
that
it's an
issue.
iOS period thing. It's not specific to Jitsi. Just they restrict what device, what applications can access those devices for your security, and as
So,
such, you do have to use an app for it.
so we should mention
Um,
real quick that so if you're using iOS, download the Jitsi app. If you're using a Mac, don't use Safari. It works, but it doesn't like it very much. If you're using a
right.
Mac, use Chrome or Firefox. It's better.
You can make it work in Safari. It just
Yeah.
again, Apple is, in my opinion, a very smart thing is they're not making money off of your data. They're making money off of you as a customer, and therefore they provide more privacy for you.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that makes it hard for some of these applications to gain access to things like your microphone and your webcam and things like that to work seamlessly.
Right.
They can work, you just have to jump through some hoops. Um, but the as I said, the some of the things that we really like with the Jitsi is there's no accounts required. The room names are human readable. So unlike your Google Hangouts, capital A, lowercase x, F5, 4, 3, 32 characters long of this random string, you can now have a room that is OBW
One.
public room 1.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so it's very easy if someone can't find the link or get to it to talk someone into being able to get into that room, read out that URL so they can get into it.
Right.
Um, Third, and this is much more from a content creator point of view, is it allows for hotkeys to switch between your camera modes. So we've all seen all of us have done this, but I tend to point out at the Ministry of Dice for the most egregious offenses of it. Of it switches to the other player's turn, but the camera is still left on the one player. And so we have no idea what's actually happening other than what they are able to say, verbally.
Right.
And a lot of that is because, when we're sitting there, we're playing, our mouse is off to the side. We're not thinking, we don't want to grab the mouse to move over to switch things over and whatnot. So being able to have the keys on your keyboard to be able to press 1, 2, 3, whatever to switch to the cameras makes life so much easier from a content creator's recorder's point of view.
It's still going to happen though.
Yeah.
It makes it easier.
Well, for OBS, it's just so much easier, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've worked with Jordo over at Dice Masters of the North, and us, on trying to simplify a lot of those setups. I know True Mr. 6 over at Ministry of Dice has had some issues in the past with Jitsi. And so I'm trying to get information from him specifically, to get some feedback from him.
Right.
The biggest issue that we tend to hear from people is along audio. There's a little bit of audio issue. Within Jitsi, there's the settings that you can go into, and it'll show you your audio devices, and you may have to play around with those.
Okay.
But for the most part, I hold a weekly conference with my parents. They're separated, so I do 2 of these a week, plus another one with my wife's parents. So 3 conferences a week, and it's all been through Jitsi. And other than one issue with a particular couple both being on their own devices sitting next to each other on a couch, and neither of them using headphones, so we're getting echo from the other one.
Right.
We've had everyone's able to figure it out very quickly to get things working. So
cool.
It's for me, I don't know how much I've gotten into previously what I do for a living. I work in IT network security for a living. So, I'm banned from using Zoom through my job because of the issues and whatnot that have happened with it, for years, not just recently, but long term.
Right.
And Hangouts there, I can't remember the number of times we've heard Google say Hangouts is being shut down.
Yeah.
The date just keeps getting pushed back. So we're constantly looking for something new, and Hangouts worked. I'm not saying it was, bad. It's just, it's not the best for us.
Right.
So,
And I mean, and in practicality, that was one of the reasons talking to you in the first place was me and True Mr. 6 were trying to figure out, we didn't have enough rooms to have the North American tournament and the European tournament overlap. And we're like, well, I don't want you to be too late, and I don't want to start too early. How can we make this work? And Ryan jumped in and was like, hey, we have this thing called Jitsi. It's going to make it all go away.
Yeah, the fact is, you can create the rooms at as many as you want. As I said, you just, I think you and I came up with the idea of OBW EU Public Room 1 or something like that, and then OBW NA Public Room 1.
Yep.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many we need, and they just get created as needed.
Yep.
So, yeah, and that's all part of, as we said, with the challenge with the stations. Above your matching, you'll have a little purple link that'll have a name for your room. You just click that link, drops you straight into your room, and you're there paired against your opponent, ready to play.
Bang! Oh, that's great.
So
maybe I'll get if you could write up a little something about how to use Jitsi to set up your audio and your video. I can post that on Rolling Thunder and not just have a little fact.
Okay, I will do my best to get something going for you there. Mine may not be the best scenario, so I may have to grab like my daughter's laptop or something to pull from. So
Ryan's incredibly good at telling you as you're doing it and sharing screens, explaining it, because it's very simple for Ryan, and it's Yeah, he's gone through a lot of troubles with me trying to help me set up stuff because I'm an idiot when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Oh, there's been a couple of times we've been up till 3-4 a.m. Fixing OBS issues on his machine and whatnot. So
yeah, OBS completely crashing, deleting everything. Yeah, that was great.
So
well, it's funny when you
so
learn these things, you forget how long it took you to learn the basics, right? And then when you're trying to teach somebody new something, wow, there's a lot of stuff that I picked up along the way, or if you're that person below, you feel like, oh my god, there's stuff I've got to climb up. And it's
in the last week, just the changes I've posted with Chris on stuff. It's like, oh hey, I know I said do it this way, but try this and change it this way.
Yeah.
Right.
Until we can have a conversation, I don't try to do anything because I don't want to screw it up worse.
Yeah. I had a little dance recently when I finally got the TiVo Mini to stream the stuff from the TiVo in the living room, and it actually worked. Boy, I just thought I felt like such a genius for a little while. I did a little victory dance in the bedroom. But this too can happen for all of you Dice Masters players. Just follow Ryan's instructions.
So, but no, one of the things I did want to mention, as we said, you're using our challenge community to help organize the event and these tournaments, and that's an open offer for any other content creator out there. I know the name of the community is CR Game Room. That's because who we are. We are more than happy to extend it to allow others to use. Um, we're all about trying to enable everyone to play whatever game they want to play. I happen to be passionate about Dice Masters. I'm very fortunate enough to be able to extend that to the rest of the community if they would like to use it. So,
and we're not trying to take any credit for anyone else's tournaments. I know that may be something that comes up. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to make it easy for everyone to play tournaments online, not just us or not just OBW or anyone else. It's anyone that wants to use it can use it. You can just say, hey, we're doing this with a community, so go ahead and join it. You don't even have to name us. I mean, if you can help us sell out, that'd be great, but...
I'm talking about me, man. You can help me out all the idea is just to have fun. And quite frankly, you guys have figured this out. You've put in the time. You've put in the hours. You've done a lot of testing. It's solid.
We failed a lot. We failed a lot.
We failed so much that the only way left to fail was up.
Yeah.
Well, the great Gary Kasparov said that if you ever want to, when he was talking about chess, but I think it applies to Dice Masters or anything else, really, is like the person who's going to get to be the best is the person who can tolerate failure the most. Yep. And he was talking about it in relationship to confidence. Like, you have to have confidence to do anything well. And you want to find that balance between failure. You want to fail as much as you can before it totally tanks your confidence. So, that's why sometimes the overconfident people who can tolerate failure to a little will improve. You watch kids, they just fail and keep going. That's what we want to be like, ideally, as adults, and it's really hard.
Yeah, and I really like that saying because, I feel like that's something that I try to live by. And it's hard to complete that sometimes. The 100th time you fail, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not fun.
Yeah, it's easy to fail. It's hard to keep your confidence level, right? But if you can keep remembering that it's medicine, it's good for you.
Please, sir, I'd like another.
Please, I have another service. Yeah. But anyway, the bottom line is that you guys have put in the hour. You've had the stumbles, and the system is solid now. So I'm not. Of course, there's going to be hiccups and things. That's just as we are in this digital world, and we all know that that's going to happen. But I think the track record you guys have put down, the backbone, the spine is solid, and I'm pretty confident that this is going to go off well. So.
I appreciate the vote of confidence in us here, so hopefully we don't steer you wrong. So,
oh God, so much pressure. You should have heard us talk about challenge like what was it, 6 months ago? Oh, we hated challenge. But Ryan has done some great work, and yeah, we're glad that we were able to put in some work. Mostly Ryan doing everything and figuring everything out, and just frustrating with it as much as he has been, and then actually getting it done. And we appreciate the great words you've said about us. It's like
Well,
weird to hear it sometimes.
the truth is, challenge. There's things about it that are still not intuitive, and like a lot of the settings, you kind of have to jump through. And Ryan, you figured that out, and so all this stuff is going on in the back end. So if you play in the tournament and you enjoy it, make sure you give a little shout out to Ryan and say thank you, because a lot of like the little tiny little settings behind the scenes that he's put it clicked in to make it work and make it all easy and seamless. It's not necessarily intuitive, and it took a lot of work. Uh, you know, Months of work beforehand. So hats off to you for
Yeah.
that, Ryan.
Well, thank you. I figured out a long time ago my contribution to this community is not going to be my gameplay, but my ability to facilitate others' gameplay. So,
Here, here. I salute you for that.
All right. So
oh,
one last we have a little bit more, like a few minutes.
Okay.
What days do you have your podcast on exactly?
This is a very good question. Well, it used to be really fairly regular. And just life got in the way in terms of Lucan's been doing a lot. He's my partner in crime. Has been had a huge, huge, huge year in junior. So we're doing it now as when we get something that we really want to do, we do it. And
Okay.
so it's random, but it's coming out. We're recording this Saturday. We've got a big one coming up. I think people will enjoy it. It's a little bit more of a one-offer, but I think it'll be good. So we're doing it about once a month, maybe twice, once a month, once every 3 weeks is what we're doing now. But it's not like clockwork anymore. It's sort of like when we originally did it, we felt like it was just the Ministry of Dice, and that was it. And we felt like, this is again. We felt like just like we wanted to have tournaments to keep the game alive. We felt like having a podcast to keep the game alive is important too. So we kind of jumped in there and did that. But now we've got a couple other newcomers to the scene who are doing great podcasts. So we don't feel like as like, oh, we just got to have something out there. And maybe that's not great, but that's kind of the way it is right now.
I mean, things happen, things get in the way. So I mean, it understandable. And you guys do have a few good articles on the website every now and then. It looks like. Do you guys just
but
put that whenever you can, for the most part?
Yeah, we in fact again we wanted. I told you we had like a billion things that we started and we haven't finished. We started like even doing a couple of videos. We do the puzzles sometimes, and we've
Mhm.
done a lot of things like the puzzle. We wanted to do the solution to the puzzle. We want to do it online, and I couldn't just do it half-assed, so I had to like start looking about 3D modeling and 3D. So I've been watching Blender videos in the middle of the night trying to figure out how to make this look good. And part of me is like, yeah, it's time to just get this video out. So
yeah, it's Steven and I were actually talking earlier today about your puzzle things, and I will say, as I've said to every person who's been on here who has regular content, I'm sorry, I'm not the greatest digester of the content. I will usually go through a batch and get through everything on one. But
right.
one of the things I did love about Rolling Thunder were those puzzles. You
The puzzles are
know,
great. They're a ton of work. And
right?
you try to make them airtight, and they're never airtight. So they're always there's an element to them that
There's
it's always a little bit of a disappointment. Like I can't tell you the number of the times where I've almost got it, and then I'll be like wake up in the middle of the night like, oh no, this
Cold
stupid
sweat.
thing. The puzzle was like Lucan and I played chess,
Hmm.
and the puzzles and chess are just a great way to improve as a chess player.
Hmm.
And Dice Master's got a lot of chess elements to it. So we want to keep doing the puzzles. There's a lot of things on our site. I don't think a lot of people check it out. They just think of us as a podcast. But the site, I put in a lot of effort in terms of like, if you want to go and you're a new player, there's a lot of links there. If you're looking for links, you're looking for like, go there. There's resources there that I hopefully will point people in the right direction on a lot of things. Like I know a lot of times people ask like, hey, where am I going to find this or that or the other thing? I
Well,
guarantee if
and
you go to the
speaking of
resource.
which, for those that don't know, what is your website?
Yes. So it's Rolling Thunder. .xyz, and I to this day I don't know why I paid for XYZ because well, I know I paid, it was cheap, but
Kind of like why we're at .rocks.
Yeah, it's likely to not make it past your block this filter or whatever. But RollinThunder.xyz, it's Rollin without a G and no apostrophe because the internet hates apostrophes. So RollinThunder.xyz, you'll find all kinds of stuff there, podcast, pages, lots of fun stuff. Some articles. We do articles when the spirit moves us.
And it's
And of
the
course,
link.
they can go there to find out any information about OBW as well.
Yes, the OBW, all the OBW. There's sneak peeks at some of the pricing we've got. When I get your special box, I will.
Yep,
links to that stuff if that's okay.
Should get in the mail this week. I finally got the shipping supplies in today.
Yeah,
so
I think when people get to actually play this OBW, it's gonna be. I mean, the pricing alone is awesome. You guys have just come out. Just hit it out of the park.
I take very little credit on the pricing. Jordo.
Well, Jordo's done a lot. You've done a lot. I'm throwing in some stuff, but it's just stuff for my collection. Jimmy's thrown in some stuff, so we're gonna have a lot of stuff to just try to spread the love a little.
And by the way, I want to mention you can check out your guys' website in the description of this video. So if you hear this video and you want to know where to go, just check in the description. Go to the website to check on any updates for OBW, Rollin Thunder podcast, any news articles they have, and anything they want to talk about on there. It's in this description of this video, so make sure you check that out.
Yeah, great. And I'll be updating the OBW page specifically within the next couple of days once we've kind of ironed out what the format's going to be, both here and so you can check there too in terms of getting the details on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. We kind of picked today as the day to have you on here to kind of, as you said, help set the fire to make sure days didn't slip on anything. So
yeah, I'm glad you did because literally I don't know anymore. So it's good to keep me honest.
So that's the only way I remember to do things. Oh shoot, I got to get that done before the podcast, the broadcast tonight. Hold on, click it.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for us. Thanks for being on, Arge, and we'd love to have you on another time.
And thank you guys for providing this community service in so many ways. Just the infrastructure for the background, but for the CR game room itself as in the tournaments, it's all great. And if you haven't tried it, one of these days I'm going to actually do one of the 2-team takedowns. I think it looks like a lot of fun.
We'd love to see what you would come up with
at this point.
Yeah. Most people are just coming up with 2 Becky Lynch teams, and that's it. But
yeah, I would suggest if you're going to pick one to join, wait for the next one. And that should be spoiler here. That will be a return of our legacy event.
Oh, great!
And so we are carrying over the legacy ban list from last year. So there will probably be more Beckys and whatnot, but
ban her as fast as everyone can, please. I don't want to
Yep.
see it in the invitational. I don't want to see it.
Yep.
The global part of her is fun, but
the rest of her is
the
just
fact
awful.
that she's a win con with the global that enables other wins. Yeah, it's the hard part.
Why can't she just be like the chalkboard? It was fine for the global. Everything else, never played it.
Or the Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Yeah,
great for the global. If you ever needed to, you could buy it, but it wasn't an easy purchase. So
right. And he wasn't easy. You still had to figure out how to win with him, and he was cool. But then you had to have something else to make him work.
Exactly.
I bought him now. What do I do now?
I got a good blocker. All right. Well, guys, Chris, I think we're past our time here. So, Arge, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we drop off for the night?
Thank you again for having me on, and thanks in advance for I'm sure help that comes the way during the tournaments. Everybody, get ready to play. If you want to play May 16th, check out OBW and Rollin Thunder and sign up for the tournament.
See you guys later.
Bye, everyone.
That's going to wrap things up for us here in the CR Game Room. Check out our website, crgr.rocks, for all our latest info. There you'll find a link to help support us via Patreon. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Join our conversations on Discord. Be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for hanging out.